But you're unique because most business owners are not system oriented. They're more the visionaries using EOS. And I know you've talked about this before here. The Rocket Fuel book really states it out because most business owners like myself, I like doing the visionary. Get me in them weeds of the processes. Ugh, I don't like that myself. And most of my business owners don't. But I tell them who in their organization is. And a lot of times, they don't even have to hire a full integrator. They have somebody already that likes systems and processes, but they got to help facilitate to get that done and put the resources there to make it happen.
Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Once again, we have another Profit First success story, not only in Gary's business, but with his clients. As you scale, you need to do so profitably and take profits along the journey, because we never know what the future will be and when things will shift. Gary Wilbers founded the Ascend Mastermind in 2016 with 30 years of experience in entrepreneurship. He's passionate about helping small business owners achieve success, balance, and significance through his peer advisory groups. He's been on over 200 podcasts and is a best-selling author, and he hosts the Small Business Answer Man podcast, on which I was lucky enough to be a guest. Gary's very involved in the community and bringing his spirituality to his business. Let's meet Gary and see how he does it. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Gary Wilbers. It's great to have you join us
Well, Rocky,
today.
it's great to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Excited for the conversation. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Well, I've just recently had a 30th wedding anniversary to my wife, Dana, and we have 3 children. They're 25, 23, and 21. So we're kind of empty nesters now. But in the business side, I used to be in the wireless industry. Back in the days, we used to call it the mobile phone industry. And in 2012, I sold that business, had several other businesses, and really decided I want to spend my time helping other business owners really kind of create the life that they want. Because I found the challenge in being a small business owner is you get a lot of overwhelm, a lot of chaos. And now I love spending my time helping business owners really not figure it out just in the business, but also figuring out the life part. Because be quite honest, it's the journey that I went on myself. Sometimes you spend all your everything into the business, and you let the life slip by you. And I don't want business owners to do that.
We believe your business serves you. You are not to be a slave to your business. And actually, when we onboard a new client, the first 2 hours is talking about them and their journey to the business and to today. We want to learn about, their family, how they grew up, their behaviors, and their experiences. What were the goods and the bads, and what are the things? Because we behave a certain way, and when you start to understand the behaviors, you can start to prevent problems from occurring, or be aware that, oh, I better keep this in the back of my head because this might become a problem, and why not solve it before it actually is?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting you say that, because you're doing that to kind of really know and understand the client. And I've found out that I do a process that I call a clarity navigator, because I feel a lot of business owners have their vision of where they want to go, but they are not very clear on how they want to get there. So I walk them through a process of really their 3-year plan of where do they want to be before I take them on too, because I think it's so important to know that, because ultimately I want to find out what really makes them tick. But the only thing is, they think it's all about the business. But then we bring the life domains in too, and we start talking about those relationships and things like health and those other areas that are so important to life to really make you a better business owner.
Well, and that's part of the pre-onboarding. I actually give them a life wheel, and it asks some questions about their health, their spirituality, their family, their relationships, how they feel about their money. So we're doing all that pre, and then usually after we go through them, then we sit down and we look at the business, and then we plan the business out, because I want the business to match their personal goals. So often you see business owners and they're building a business, and I'm like, but you said you didn't want that. What the hell are you doing? And that's a big part.
I see that all the time. And the challenge they get into is they think the pot of gold. And I've heard you say this, I think, on your podcast before, not in those terms, but they think the pot of gold is when they're going to sell the business. That's too late. Let's enjoy it as we go through, and we're creating this business and we're developing this business to enjoy other ways to get it. And I'm sure you've done just like I have. You've created multiple streams of income out of your businesses. Makes it totally different.
Well, and that's why we say profit is not an event when you sell, right? Profit is a habit that you have every day along the way. Actually, I just saw this thing just today on Facebook, and it was kind of funny. Actually not Facebook, on LinkedIn. And basically what the guy said was, people tend to focus a lot on revenue, and they also nobody said, hey, I want to buy a business that doesn't pay taxes, right? Because too many business owners want to spend thinking it's a tax deduction, but then there is no pot of gold, because people buy your cash flow and profit. And if you don't have that, you don't have a pot of gold. And so most business owners, I don't think, get to the end. And if they haven't built it along the way, they might be in for a rude awakening at a point in time in their life where they're burnt out.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I get worried when I hear business owners say, I want to reduce my profit all the time. I understand you want to take care of tax advantages. I'm a firm believer in that. But the thing is, you can do that throughout the year in strategic and smart ways, versus you get in December and you go buy a new truck that you bought 2 years ago. There's only one person that wins in that equation, the dealer.
The dealer. Well, and the auto finance guy too, both cases. And the accountant actually wins. And you know why the accountant wins? Because they're like, look, you didn't have to pay taxes. Don't you love me? And that's a weird, you're like, wait a minute. No, I don't. I'm supposed to be profitable.
That's right. I agree.
Speaking of profit, I know you're a fan of Profit First. How did you learn about Profit First?
I actually picked up the book. I don't know how I got it, if I saw it. I mean, I was following Mike Michalowicz for a while, and I saw that book come out. And I'll be honest, I ordered it, but it sat on the desk for quite a while before I actually read it. And then I think I went on a trip, so I took it with me, and then I started reading it on the airplane. And of course, I had to finish it right away then. And my whole thought at the time was, I'm reading this book to see how can I help my clients that come on. But I just love the philosophy so much that I said, we've got to start doing this. Now, the only challenge I will tell you, we all come into challenges when we want to implement, because I don't do the books. My wife does. We're a smaller business. And she's like, having 5 accounts, that's crazy. You don't want to do all that. And so we started putting the systems in slowly. I won't say we're even still today 100% there, but it's made a big difference to think, how much do I want to take out of this business at the outset versus waiting to what my expenses are? Because too many of us as business owners, I see it all the time. The area that most business owners are weak in is in the financial area. Most of them want to outgrow revenue, then that way they can get what they need, the resources they need. But when they don't know their finances and know what's coming in, that's when your business gets in trouble really quickly. And I've seen it too often with my clients that do not take the interest in the finance side, that's when at some point in time, their business gets in trouble because, number one, they spend too much, or they keep growing at too fast a pace, and their revenue is not increasing that pace that they need to have. So that's why I love this philosophy, is realizing, okay, what do I want to have in profit? And then I figure out what my expenses are and really looking at it there. And then separating out of the accounts, I mean, that goes back to ever, but it really goes into the business world now. Why do we separate out the accounts? Because number one, we can't trust ourselves. Most of us are not disciplined enough for a credit card to pay it off every month. So what's so important by putting different accounts in? And really it sets you up for your business to truly get that long-term advantage in the business for yourself that you want to have. And I think that's the key between profit first is, number one, it's telling you, you're dictating the profit you want to generate out of your business.
And it gives you clarity all the time of exactly what's going on and whether or not you're hitting your target from a cash flow standpoint. And it gives you the wake-up call. So if you're not hitting what you're supposed to, you'll know a lot faster than if you just have a big pile of money and you don't realize how much of it was already committed, and then you get behind the 8 ball. So definitely. How have your clients enjoyed it?
Real well. I mean, some of them have struggled trying to implement. I tried to refer a few over to you, but getting them to think, okay, I need to get the help in that becomes the challenge sometimes. But the ones that I see that really implement and take and read the book, and then even if they start at a slow process, they see gains in it. But the challenge is really getting over that hump of saying, okay, I need to go all in. And like I told you, I think that's the greatest challenge, but I think it gives them a different way of thinking. Now, I've had some success. I've had one client that I suggested it, but of course I can't do it for him. I give him resources. Rocky's one of my resources that I give because I know he's certified in this and he will help people in that. But the thing is, you can't drag a person to drink. They have to decide to do it. And one of my clients that didn't do it, that I recommended multiple times and over multiple years, didn't do it. And of course, this last year went out of business.
That's a shame. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses go out of business. And the number one reason is no cash. And we can fix that. And we can extract cash from the business so you can build your backup plan. Because the reality is, if you have excess cash, you can solve problems. But if you don't have excess cash, it becomes very, very hard to solve some of those problems. And so it definitely is, it's a game changer and a winner. You just got to do it. And honestly, I have found the same thing you did. I don't know how to get people to actually take action. And let's face it, you need to wear the financial hat or have somebody in your business who does at some point. Otherwise, as you said, you're going to get yourself in trouble.
And you see it time and time again.
So you do. You coach a lot of business owners. What are some of the biggest struggles you see them have beyond the financials?
Well, behind the financials is really about their systems, the systems and processes. We hear it all the time in business, but this becomes one of those areas that the reason they're a small business is, of course, they like doing lots of different things. But to grow and scale their business to the next level, you got to have the system and processes because all the knowledge is tied up in your people then. So how do we go about getting those systems and processes in place so you can really grow and scale your business? And that becomes the next big challenge that I see for business owners is financial is number one, because if you don't have cash, you're not in business and you don't have good financials. But number two is getting your systems and processes in place. Because once you go past 2 or 3 people, you've got to have some system process. Give you a good example, Rocky. We hired a VA late last year. Well, most of the stuff was being done by either my wife. I do have a marketing lady that works for me, and then myself. When we hired the VA, the first couple of weeks, I'll be honest, we struggled. It wasn't because of the VA group, but the reason we struggled is because we didn't have any systems and processes now. We just did it. And so I said, we've got to start meeting more and we've got to put some processes together and do that. Well, over the next couple of months, we did that. Our VA group does great now because why? They have the system process. Best part about it is, even if they don't work out, we now have the system processes. We can flip somebody else into that same spot and they will be able to do a good job too.
And that's one thing. I'm a systems guy beyond being a money guy. And I have found if I have checklists or systems and processes that I can just follow, especially for things that aren't done all the time, it makes things go faster and it takes my mental load down dramatically. And as we speak, we're actually in the process of taking another step in how to even better systematize our delivery systems. Even though I'm the only one running it, I want me to stop thinking and stop going, oh, what do I need to do? Where am I at? I want to have in my head the best way to go down a list because I found I go faster and it's easier and there's less stress. And so I'm a big fan of creating those types of things. And then you just execute.
But you're unique because most business owners are not system oriented. They're more the visionaries using EOS. And I know you've talked about this before here. The Rocket Fuel book really states it out because most business owners like myself, I like doing the visionary. Get me in them weeds of the processes. Ugh, I don't like that myself. And most of my business owners don't. But I tell them who in their organization is. And a lot of times, they don't even have to hire a full integrator. They have somebody already that likes systems and processes, but they got to help facilitate to get that done and put the resources there to make it happen. And that's always the challenge is getting the business owner to see if they take this, I truly believe if you get systems and processes, you're going to scale quicker, faster, and profitable by scaling. When you don't have those in place, that's when they start kind of doing what they call the spaghetti method. You throw up on the wall and see what sticks, and that gets business owners in trouble.
And what I have noticed is if they scaled without systems and processes, what they think is happening is nowhere near what is happening. And I can see it in the P&L. Like I can say, hey, you're not profitable. I can say there's an efficiency problem, but I can't pinpoint it because I'm not there. But I can tell you just by looking at their numbers and the way that we do it, I can look and say, yeah, your employees, I know they're all busy, but I don't know what the hell they're busy doing because it ain't driving revenue and it ain't driving profit. They're probably wasting a lot of time. And I think I had a business owner recently who, just because of what happened, they had to get back into the field. And they started to see what their people were doing. And they were like, oh, crap. No wonder we're having problems. But nobody taught them. As a business owner, your job is actually to train people in how to use your system. And if you don't have a system, I don't know what you're going to train them in, which is what the problem is.
It all goes to that overhead and operations, and that gets bloated. And of course, what happens then? We see in our government what happens when things get bloated. That blows everything up because your expenses become too much and getting people to realize. And if you don't get into it, especially business owners, because if they're always trying to create, they're trying to bring the next thing in, they're not looking at the backside. And like I said, maybe it's not them. Maybe they have somebody on their team. If I had one client that we knew that he's a salesman and he loves meeting with clients and loves going out and working with clients. And he's great at it. So I said, let's bring in an operations person because the problem was he'd go out there in the middle of the week for sure, sometimes leave on Monday and sometimes get back on Friday. And of course, he'd get thrown everything at the staff on those days. And of course, it would stress him out and can't get it all done. And we brought in an operations person that took care of that for him and now was handling those duties. And of course, what happened to his revenue? His revenue increased, but also his profit increased because it really made a difference in business. Because what was his value to the organization was sales. And when he was able to do that more, of course, they were able to increase sales and grow their revenue at the same time. And the nice thing about him, they also grew their profit line. They actually saw that their percentage of gross margin went up instead of it going down.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I think that is the biggest struggle for business owners is getting stuff out of their head and down into a system. And if you don't have a person, you got to find a person, right? Just in the same way you don't have a financial thing, you got to put a person in the seat. And I think today, more than ever, finding what we call fractional part-time people to be able to do this, you've got more firepower available than ever before at a very reasonable cost. And the cool thing is if you build the system, it's not something you have to keep doing ongoing. In other words, you build it and then you run it and then you just have to tweak it. So you don't necessarily need that person for a super long time. You just need it until you've got your basics going, and then you just have to make sure it's actually done. Which kind of brings me to my next question is, as we're growing, we got to recruit and hire. And that's a struggle, I think, for a lot of people, is that ability to find great people and to be able to retain them. What have you been able to do to help your clients do that?
Rocky, I think the real thing today is in the marketplace, when you're looking at hiring, retaining, and engaging really your workforce, it's really changing how we do business. We've got to think differently in this recruiting aspect. We've got to realize Generation Z is the workers that are coming in the workforce. When we came in the workforce, there were certain parameters that we wanted to have. So the thing we have to really think about when we're recruiting, how do we need to recruit those individuals? And I think the thing for business owners to realize, the marketplace has changed. And that becomes the real key. One of them is they're looking for a collaborative work effort. Because why? That's how they grew up. So how can we create a positive culture? I always talk about positive culture, the environment of your workplace. How can you create that? I've got a 23-year-old. He just went in the workforce about a year ago. And it's different than what he expects versus what I expect. And of course, sometimes I'll chuckle. Oh, they do that. You know, they have a bunch of items like they have drinks and energy drinks and all those different things in the refrigerator that they're able to provide for him. But he'll always look at the things they don't. And sometimes I have to tell him, son, you got to look at the benefits they do bring. But I think as business owners, sometimes we don't realize the benefits we bring, we take them for granted. And so what I'm meaning when we're recruiting, we have to let them know what we provide. So as we do that, and in retaining them, I think that becomes the key is they are used to, and they think everything happens really fast. So when we're retaining, we have to talk about how do we move up in this organization? And they also want to know what's the purpose? What are we doing? I don't care if you make widgets. There's still a purpose behind what you do. And you have to share that vision with them. And I think as business owners, a lot of times we think, oh, we communicate all this, but we don't do a very good job of it. And you have to keep communicating it. So that ultimately drives that engagement of getting them involved, getting them excited about what they're doing. And that drives that engagement. I mean, Gallup comes out with a poll every year, and it's somewhere around 30 to 33% of people are engaged in the workforce. Well, what can you do in your organization to engage your workforce? It's not always about all the give me's, but how can you get them to see the bigger vision, what you're trying to create? And I think that's the change to me, is looking at it as a business owner. How can you share that vision and get them to buy into it? Not your vision, but the vision of what the company is doing. And then keep communicating it. Because the thing is, you talk about it in meetings, you know it yourself. But the thing is, if you only do that once a year in an all-team meeting, That's not enough. They need to hear it time and time again. So to me, when we look at recruiting, the other thing that I'm just always frustrated with is people, how they do recruiting. They don't really interview people. As business owners, a lot of them, if they're the one hiring, they hire very emotionally. Oh, Rocky talked about he likes the Cardinals and I do too. So guess what? I'm going to hire him. We don't really base them on the skill set. So to me, we have to look at it. Do we have a system in place? You talk about having a system. That's another place you've got to have systems. How are you doing your hiring and your recruiting? And yet that can be a true system. I get into behavior interviewing and having core competency skills that you want to have in that position and actually having a job description. Because let's be honest, a lot of small businesses, I call them role descriptions. They don't even have job descriptions. Well, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that, and they don't have it laid out. And I think that becomes another piece of it, is having a system in place for your hiring, your retaining, and your recruiting of new individuals that you're bringing to your organization.
So first off, if you don't create the culture, somebody else will. And the other thing is, you can communicate your values, but if you don't exemplify them and they are not action oriented, they're a sign on the wall, the young generation isn't buying that.
Got to live them.
And I think lastly, you got to live them. I know when I was in corporate, they would give us all these, I'll call them prizes or perks. They never gave me what I wanted. They gave me crap that I didn't know what to do with. I couldn't even give it away to my kids. I'm like, if you keep giving me the same thing over and over, how many of these do I need? Like, seriously. So it's understanding what they want, not what you want. And again, it's not always about the money, right? I think we throw money too often, and money is not always the solution. It's being valued and listened to and cared about and felt respected. Respect doesn't cost money, technically. There are a lot of these other softer things that if you're not doing, it's not part of your norm, then you're going to get yourself in trouble with this.
Well, I saw a study, I think it was late last year or early this year, and you mentioned it. It's the number one thing that employees want to know is that you care. And that means so many different things. It doesn't mean that I care about them. No, it means that they know that they had a child that, was sick last week. And I come up and say, Rocky, how's Johnny doing today? Or this week? It's the small little things that make a difference. It's knowing that they had an anniversary and they get recognized and about that, or a birthday. I mean, I used to do silly things. I had 150 employees at one time, Rocky, and I would call each one of them on their birthday and sing to them. I can't sing a lick, Rocky. I'm terrible. Don't even ask me to do it here. I can't sing. But you know what? It was something that they knew they felt special. And of course, as I grew as an organization, 150 people, it's not easy to keep track of. We had it on the calendar. But then I had my leaders even know that if I hadn't called them by noon, their job was to make sure they called me to remind me, hey, because I may have been in a meeting or something, not be able to get to it. But my goal was always do it early part of the day. So I still had time, because if I didn't do it, then it became a negative. But they knew that I cared for them.
And I think that's a big part of it. People, and most small businesses don't have a ton of layers, but we were always taught in corporate, people don't leave the company, they leave their manager. And, in a small company, if you're their manager and you're the owner, they're leaving you. And money is not always the answer. And I said that before, I'll say it again. I think it's everything else that you do. And the environment and culture that you create and live. And a lot of times it's not the big stuff, it's the little things. Just figure out the little personal things. And I think that will make a big difference.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Is there anything else is there anything else we should have talked about but didn't get a chance to?
The only thing I think we need to talk about, because I know you're in ISI and I'm in a mastermind too, and I have my own mastermind of a local group that I have. But the big thing is, I think people need to understand, especially business owners that's listening, you need to have a coach or a group of people that are on your side. Don't go it alone. No team wins alone, and you won't win as an individual. And find that. And I'm in coaching, but I'm not saying for my benefit. Find what works for you. I've been in mastermind groups since 1994, and I know how valuable they are. But you got to get out of yourself. So that's the big thing I would tell, because I know you've got business owners that listen to your podcast, is if you don't have a group, go find it for yourself, because that becomes a critical component. That takes you from the ceiling where you're hitting the glass ceiling, that you break out of the ceiling. That's where you look at the bigger picture, and you get people that you see that are doing better than you. And instead of being jealous of them, you can ask them, what was their roadmap? And then you can tag onto that roadmap and make your own roadmap to become a successful business owner. I just believe that every business owner should have either their coach or a mastermind group or something of that nature that's helping them, because when they're in their own little world, it's a pretty lonely world out there being a business owner if you don't have anybody that you can go. Because normally the wife doesn't want to hear a spouse, because there's a lot of lady business owners too. The spouse doesn't want to hear all your problems that you got at work. They've got enough of their own.
And that's true. And I currently I'm in the ISI Mastermind. I run my own mastermind for fractional CFOs. And then I belong to other masterminds over the time. And I have a crap ton of coaches for different areas that help me with different things. And, over time that evolves and changes, and you find new people and you shift. But absolutely, you'll always got to have that. Otherwise, you're probably hitting your ceiling and you don't even know it. And I think that's the big part of these groups and these people, are to push you outside of that ceiling and help you do it faster, quicker, and to prevent mistakes from happening. And so, yeah, they've all been super helpful for me. If people would like to learn more about you, your coaching and everything you do, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just reach out to our website, goascend.biz. That's available out there. All the information is there and easily to get to. And the big thing is find somebody that fits you. And then really, if you're looking at the Profit First system because you're listening to this, really dig into it, because that's going to make a difference in your business, just like I talked about with the coaching. To me, those are two components that go hand in hand. And Rocky, what you're doing for business owners, I listen to your podcast, and I mainly listen for my business owners that I can share with them. And I don't know how many episodes I've shared with people and say, you need to take a listen to this, because business owners, the profit, and really what we're talking about is the financial part of your business. It's critical. That's going to make or break you. So figure it out. You don't have to be the genius. That's what Rocky is there for. But hire the right people, because it's going to make a difference and it makes your life so much easier.
That it does. It really does. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Rocky, thanks for having me.
Are you ready to focus on your financials and ensure you are getting paid? If not, then when? Profit First works, but you have to implement it and implement it correctly. And when you hit a bump, and you will hit a bump, you have to push through it. If you hate looking at financials, then give that hat to someone like me, because I love and live for it and want to see you be more profitable. We're actually a revenue center, not a cost center, because we help you keep more money. And remember, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful and focus on the bottom line.
If you'd like for us to be a part of your profitability journey, we have different programs available ranging from do-it-yourself to one-on-one coaching. Our course, The Profit Blueprint, teaches you everything you need to know to transform your profitability. There are 3 different tiers ranging from DIY to done with you, so that businesses of all sizes can get the support that's best. Join the waitlist in the show notes to get more information and be a part of the next cohort. If you want a done-for-you service, you can hire us as your Chief Profitability Officers. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $10 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
Remember to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about how to live the ultimate life and be the best business owner you can be. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.